I want to tell you something. I actually want to share something with you that's very personal and very close to my heart on the journey of hope and how hope came about. Most of you have read online or seen some publicity where you will know that I have lost 9 children. But my very first loss was very special to me. In this loss, I had been told that I would never be able to be a mother, never conceive naturally. So when I was carrying my son, my firstborn, whom I lost because he was born sleeping, he was a miracle child for me, a miracle pregnancy, a miracle conception, and that God had answered my prayers. So when I lost Tarek, my whole world fell apart. What I didn't recognize then, that I now, being a qualified counsellor, understand, was that I went through a psychotic episode for 2 weeks. And when I snapped out of this episode, it was a Friday morning. I'll never forget the day. Friday mornings are very special. The Friday itself is very special for all Muslims across the world. And I felt a sense of heaviness. I felt a sense of uneasiness, anxious. I felt scared. I felt heavy. I felt like I was surrounded with darkness. And my blinds were shut. I was in bed. I had a teddy bear that I had dressed in my son's clothing, which he was never going to wear any longer. And I looked at this teddy and looked at myself and said, what are you doing, educated woman? You this is not sad. This is not sane. This is insanity. You are not insane. And all those whispers of family and friends and society and expectations were going through my head, buzzing around. Am I going insane? I need to snap out of it. And I threw this teddy on the floor, and I fell on the floor, and I pulled open the blinds, looked up into the sky, which was bright blue, sunshine was out. And from my heart and from my empty room, there was a howling. In my head, in my heart. Why have you done this to me? My Lord, tell me, will I ever be fit enough to be a mother? Will you ever deem me worthy to be a mother? Will I ever have a son? Will you give me my son back? At that point, the doorbell rang. I hadn't spoken to anybody for 2 weeks. And I went downstairs and I opened the door, and all I saw was bright white light around these 2 angels, 2 women, who said to me, Mrs. Ahmed, we are here to weigh your baby boy. And at that point, I knew in my head they'd got the wrong door. But I was shaking and I was crying and laughing and saying, yes, you will come to my door and you will weigh my son one day. Alhamdulillah. Thanks to God. I was thanking Allah. They were the vessels, the angels that God had sent to reply to me. As far as I was concerned, they were a message for me. And 5 years later, when my son Mustafa was born, the student midwife, who I didn't recall seeing, all I saw was bright white light around 2 angels, came to my door to weigh Mustafa. She recognized my door. She'd never forgotten me. And she was crying and shaking when she came in. She sat at the end of the bed while she was looking at my baby and me. And I asked her, well, what's wrong? Are you okay? She told me who she was. And she told me she'd never forgotten me. And I grabbed her hand and I reached out and I held her hand. And I said, my dear sister, you have been carrying a burden on yourself for 5 years when you do not realize that you were a message from me. You were a vessel through which my God was replying to me. You were my ray of hope. And at that point, she said she got goosebumps. I got goosebumps. Hey, I still get goosebumps now telling this story, right? And there she was. I told you, you will come to my door and you will weigh my son one day. And she was there. She was the one who was there. It felt like, for me, the word hope, the acronym of hope, if I can break that down, is healing, opportunity with peace and emotion. For me, that journey of endurance, that patience, that waiting, but also feeling. There was nothing wrong with crying, suffering, letting out what I felt internally, and sharing that with others. If it gave one person strength to come forward and say, hey, it's okay to not be okay, then I've done my job. And that was to help other people. That was all I wanted to do. Because I know what it felt like. I know what that howling from your empty room feels like. And I didn't want somebody to feel alone going through that purpose. And that's how hope started. Thank you for listening.